Hello everybody, this is an interesting video and I love these videos because it's a very easy topic for me to teach. Okay, I'm just messing around, but anyway, what are we noticing from this equation? So the question says solve for x if all of that, which I'm not going to read. So what is the actual thing? Equations with substitutions, and we call this the K method. Now this is not a usual method that is really used, but it is good to take note of, because when you come across a question like this, most likely in your final examination or something like that, you will need to know how to do the K method, because this is clearly it is doable without the K method, but it just becomes very complicated. So what are we going to do? We are going to notice repetitions in order to find out what we let k be equal to. So let's start. We notice we have x squared minus 3x squared minus 8 into x squared minus 3x. Whoa, why is this here again? Which is equal to 20. Okay. So we clearly need to solve for x. So this is where we use the k method. So this is where we say let k be equal to whatever repeats itself. So therefore we're going to let it be equal to k squared minus 3x. And then what happens? Well, clearly this tells us that we are now going to have what? In the brackets, remember that we let k be equal to this and k be equal to that. So therefore in the brackets we're going to say k and square, because remember there's a square here, minus 8 into what? K, right? Is equal to 20. Do you see how easy this looks? So therefore what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the color coding. We notice we're going to have k squared minus 8k. And we can actually take the 20 over, because clearly we are solving for x and we have a quadratic equation. Okay. Alrighty. And from here, what are we going to do? We are just met with a normal trinomial factorization, because if we were left with this part, it would look so overwhelming, like what are we going to do? Do we have to expand this bracket? No. That is why K method is very helpful, because we can eliminate those repetitions, and that is when they're most likely going to ask a question like this. So k squared minus 8k minus 20 equals to 0. So this implies to us here that we are going to just use normal factorization. So k squared is the same as k multiplied by k, just like x. We treat it like x. And then 20 can be broken up into 2 multiplied by 10, or it can be broken up into 4 multiplied by 5, or whatever, right? But in this case, we can't use 4 times 5, or we can't use 4 and 5 because it doesn't give us 8. But 2 and 10 does when we say 10 minus 2. So therefore we use our brackets, equals to 0, and then we have k on the left side of both of them, and we have what? 2 and 10, right? Because we chose that. We chose 2 and 10. And then our first operator goes to the biggest value, which is 10, and then our second operator, which goes into this one, is the remainder. So the second operator multiplied by the first operator, negative and a negative, gives us a positive. And therefore we solve for k. So this implies to us that k plus 2 is indeed equal to 0, or k minus 10 is equal to 0. Okay. Now you can solve for k at this point, right? You can solve for k. But what is the question actually asking you to do? It says solve for x. So we're not solving for k. So what is k equal to? And this is in your solution. You can say, but k is equal to, what do we say? X squared minus 3x. So therefore, this just implies to us that we will have x squared, I'm gonna say x squared minus 3x, right, plus 2 is equal to 0, or we're going to have x squared minus 3x is also, sorry, minus 10 is equal to 0. Do you notice what just happened? Our k values, we just swapped into the form of an x expression. So now we can solve for x instead of k. Okay. So therefore, we can say here, it's just x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals to 0. And we can just solve for x here, right? We can see that it's in factors of x, and this is in factors of 2 and 1. And 2 and 1 can give us 3. Okay. So therefore, we use our two brackets as usual, and they're equal to 0. And then we have x on the left side, and we have 2 and 1 on the right sides. The first operator goes to the biggest one. Positive and a negative gives us a negative, which goes to the remainder. And then therefore, what that implies to us is that x is either equal to, I guess x minus 2 is either equal to 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. And then from here, x is equal to 2, or x is equal to 1. Jeez, we have so much x values we're solving for here. And then obviously from here, we'll say or x squared minus 3x minus 10 is equal to 0. I know we're going very fast, and I'm sorry. We have two x values so far, but let's find all of the possible x values. Now we need to factorize this one. X and x gives us x squared, and then 10 we get from saying 2 times 5, or we could say 1 times 10. But what gives us 3? 2 and 5. When you say 5 minus 2, we get 3. Okay. So therefore we use our brackets. And then this is equal to 0. And we have x on the left side. We have 2 and 5 on the right side. And then the biggest value gets the first operator. Negative, and a negative gives a positive for the remainder. Okay. And then this implies to us here. So let me do that. And then for this one, I'm going to say over here that we are going to have x plus 2 equals to 0, or x minus 5 equals to 0. And then therefore, what that implies to us is that x is equal to negative 2, or x is equal to 5. Right. There we go. I'm not dead. This is negative 2. There we go. There's our values. Is there any restrictions that we need to be considerate about? Absolutely none. So we should be fine. So here's all our x values. I know there's a lot of x values, but we should be fine. So that is the answers for those ones. Okay, and I'm going to give a question right now, and I want you to try it out. So here's the question. It's 2x squared minus 4x is equal to 36 minus 270 over 3x squared minus 6x. Your job is to solve for x. And I want you to try that on your own using the exact same procedure that we used for the K method to see if you can find that repetition and make your life much more easier.